I always tell people that it's not good to not have any regrets. It's good to have regrets because it means that you've grown and you've gained perspective and you've looked back and you're like, I did something wrong there, but your regret doesn't have to define you. And one thing that I do regret is not being more proactive early on in my career. It's easy to say, yeah, I do this or I get booked here or whatever the case may be, but like, what are you putting on the plate for yourself? You know what I'm saying? What are you going out and doing that, you can say like, okay, this was my stamp on proceedings. This is my impact in my community here.
How did you go from being featured on shows to throwing your own show?
It's a beautiful process to throw your own show, but as any promoter or show event coordinator will tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. You know what I'm saying? You have a lot of invested on the line whenever you do your own engagement or entrepreneur experience or project in general, right?
Definitely.
And a show is no different. It's an investment in your career. The return on investment can vary based off of many factors. When I decided to put on my own show, which thankfully I had, again, the support of being able to do it in St. Kitts first. Right? I did Social Currency in 2017 and 18 and built off of that to give myself a platform to be able to do shows in Toronto. If I didn't have the experience of doing Social Currency twice in St. Kitts prior to, there was no way that I would be able to do anything, even doing shows in general, because that's how you prove to yourself that, you can really commit the whole way. It's easy to say, yeah, I do this or I get booked here or whatever the case may be, but like, what are you putting on the plate for yourself? You know what I'm saying? What are you going out and doing that, you can say like, okay, this was my stamp on proceedings. This is my impact in my community here.
To that same point, I used to work with a guy, Ivan Hanley.
Yeah.
And he would always say, bring your house papers and let's see if you're going to work the same.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have skin in the game, the stakes are very different.
Yeah.
So you can afford to be more nonchalant.
And human nature, it's hard to be motivated without the right incentives.
Almost definitely.
You know what I'm saying? If it's just a situation where the outcome is almost predetermined, the desire is low.
You mentioned two folks earlier who basically been making waves in the poetry space. How important is it for you to surround yourself with, I don't want to just say like-minded people, but just motivated and people with aspiration?
I'm a huge proponent of that. I feel like, what was the quote? You are the 5 closest people to you in life. I really believe that holds a lot of truth, which is why, in addition to successful people, I try to also surround myself with people who show great self-awareness and empathy, because those are also qualities that I want to reflect in my own life as well, in addition to success in various fields. And the diverse areas in which my friends all have various interests is also a good reflection of the fact that we all have different ways of approaching life, but the foundational principles are all kind of the same. So it's not just about like just liming with other artists, it's about liming with successful, productive, positive-minded individuals in general, regardless of whether they may be an artist or architect or engineer or whatever the case may be. It's more important the character and the perspective on life than anything else.
Okay, on that same note, right? What's the best piece of advice that you've ever gotten that you never used?
The best piece of advice that I've ever gotten that I've never used?
Yeah.
Can it be a good piece of advice if I never used it?
I mean, the reason why I said that
yeah,
is
give me some context for that one.
you could receive really good advice, but it just might not be applicable to you. Because I feel like
I see. Oh, yeah. Okay. Actually, that's actually a really good question. I have a good answer. I spoke with a consultant one time when I was trying to map out my career, and the advice he gave me was to stop trying to do everything and focus on one thing and do it to the best of my ability. And I think that in a vacuum, that is not bad advice in a vacuum, but it is not applicable to my life. And so I had to do something else. And for me, it's not about just doing as many things as I can, because I don't have any problem saying no to a project that I don't believe in. But what I do have a problem with is passing up on the opportunity to enrich or enhance my life or someone else's life by embarking on a creative project that I deem to be worthy and I deem to be fun and engaging, but also like character building and worth my time and career building potentially as well. So those are more my criteria in terms of what I would be getting involved with.
During the transition from completing school into adulthood, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is one piece of advice if you could give to yourself at that specific point in time when the transition was coming? Like, I'm about to take this step to, because you said that's when we started noticing, hey, I could be a full-time artist.
Yeah.
Right at that moment, what is one piece of advice you would give to yourself to prepare you for?
Yeah. I always tell people that it's not good to not have any regrets. It's good to have regrets because it means that you've grown and you've gained perspective and you've looked back and you're like, I did something wrong there, but your regret doesn't have to define you. And one thing that I do regret is not being more proactive early on in my career and more proactive in terms of organization specifically. And I spent a lot of time thinking or being of the opinion that just because I was really good at poetry meant that I had some sort of right or moment that was preordained to me without me having to go out and necessarily like grab the bull by the horn, so to speak. And I wish that I had been maybe even spoken to by somebody who could encourage me to be even more proactive specifically as an artist, because like my parents instilled good values and work ethic and stuff. I wouldn't be here today if not for them, obviously, and the lessons that they've taught me along the way. But what I'm saying is specifically as an artist, what that could have been, how could I have been more proactive in those first, let's say, year and a half, 2 years, when I was just like broke AF and I was just in grind mode. So for me, I look back on that period of life and I'm thankful for it because I learned a lot about myself and I became a better individual because of that. But it doesn't mean that I have to glorify the struggle. I want to make sure that I don't have to struggle moving forward. Right? So it's about respecting that part of my life and the lessons that I learned, but being like, yo, if I had to do that over again, I would do it way more smarter because I'm smarter now. Like, why would I be going back and just grinding? I would just do things a lot more intentionally and proactively. I was kind of just like waiting for opportunities when I could have been even going harder to just make more lanes and more opportunities like I learned to do subsequently.
You say you have a love and a passion for poetry, for arts, for creating, right? What's your creative process like? Where do you draw inspiration from? So like, is it a situation where, hey, I just had this experience, or I saw this thing, I'm going to write a song? Or is it you have moments of flow state where, something's coming to me and you start putting it together, and as you're putting it together, then that's when everything formulates?
Both of those things.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay. At different times, for sure. I think for me, and it's the same reason why my artist name is my name, Patrick Walters, because I'm giving my audience a very authentic experience, or trying to give my listeners a very authentic experience. I'm telling you about my life. I'm giving you experiences firsthand. I'm not co-opting anyone else's story. I'm sharing the unique parts of my own story and the things that I've learned from other individuals as time has gone on, right? But for me, I would never tell a story of doing something that I personally wasn't doing, because there's enough people to tell those stories.
Yeah.
There's enough men who just did all of that. That's their story.
Yeah.
But I got my own, and I got a lot of cool shit to tell you, right? And I got some good ways to look at the world that you maybe didn't even consider prior to hearing me do my thing. So that's what I try my best to focus on, and not to glorify any one specific thing, but to just really hone in on what it means to have a human experience. That's why I named my last album Human Nature, because I find myself very interested with the experiences that we all go through on a day-to-day basis. The dissonance, the love, the everything. So I find myself very, very fascinated with the human experience, and that's kind of why I try to keep it as authentic as possible. And my writing process or my creative process is a reflection of that as well. So sometimes I am like, right now I'm in make an album mode, right? I'm working on my third album right now. I'm in St. Kitts looking to work with some other amazing artists who are here to expand the sound and to build further community with my people. And so I'm writing when I feel inspired, but I'm also making sure that I'm taking time to write, right? Because if I just wait to just write the next moment when I'm inspired to do so, that's the lack of proactivity that I was mentioning prior to. So I have to also now incorporate not schedule like I'm writing it down, but like be intentional throughout my week, for example, and say, okay, have I been doing enough work in my creative process? And if not, then now I know that I need to focus a little bit more time, let's say towards the end of the week, with creative process. And whether or not I have a moment of inspiration is almost secondary to the fact, because I'm making sure that in that time I'm going to do something. I'm going to put a little bit of work in.
Staying in the same vein of creative process, how did you transition from spoken word to adding musical instruments? Like, how did that come about?
I've always been very interested in hip-hop and hip-hop culture and how poetry relates back to hip-hop. The earliest rappers were poets who just did like instrumentation, and that's kind of like how hip-hop and rapping was born, right? And so for me, it's just like kind of refining that, like almost bringing it back to its basic elemental process, but in a different way than Raekwon and all the legends, and not even Raekwon, probably like KRS-One, like going right back.
Way back,
you know what I'm saying, to the beginning. So like folks like that, like my goal is to bring a different sound with familiar fundamentals, but the sound is different. And you can hear poetry, you can hear rap, you can hear music, you can hear instrumentation, you can hear a reggae vibe or R&B vibe or rocking.
That's what popped in my mind one time.
Right, but at the same time, I'm keeping it poetic and I'm keeping it flow state because that's my sound. So it's like reggae within that version, R&B within that version, rap within that version. That's kind of what I'm aiming for. And I think I've really refined the process over the time that I've been making music and made that transition. But I still do a cappella poetry as well. You know, I still perform poetry shows. I still record poetry. I still have poetry specifically on my album that has very little music, even still. And I will always have that. I will always have tracks that are just like straight up, this is a poem, right? But probably the majority of what I'm doing right now is like verses, songs, choruses, hooks, that kind of shit. And that's just where I'm at right now. It's a great place to just be exploring and refining the process.
Nah, because like you're saying, it's improvement, right? So you just keep getting better.
Exactly. That's the goal.
Millionaires, Juda States, tax-free savings, IRAs. On paper, a simple wage, but they got business and business pays. And global wage sits at $1. You avoid jail if the crime is white collar. You avoid jail if the crime is white collar. Pity that I can't